Hi, I'm Miss Krajewski. I am here to explain to you what the Articles of Confederation was. So stick with me. Now, you may recall from your previous lessons that all the colonists were British citizens. They loved Great Britain, they loved the king, they loved everything about it. But following the French and Indian War, when the British government were trying to um, get the money back that they had spent protecting the colonies, they just started taxing. And the colonists were thinking way too many taxes, too many rules. They had to house soldiers. They weren't allowed to trade with other countries. British government was giving them very little freedoms, freedoms they had enjoyed for so many years. And the British government did not allow the colonists to participate in government, like to have a vote on what would or would not be taxed or what the rules would be in the colonies. So, as you recall, that resulted in the American Revolution. Colonists were fighting for their independence from Great Britain. They win, and now they are not the British colonies, but the United States of America. So, of course, they no longer have British government, so they have to create their own government. And they come up with the framework. It's called the Articles of Confederation. So, it's the framework for government for how the United States, this brand new country, the United States of American government will work. So, under the Articles of Confederation, more power was given to state governments than to the federal government. Remember, Britain had so much control over the colonists that when now they're free of British government and we're getting our own, we're like, no way are we going to give our federal government that kind of power. We've experienced that. We don't want it. So under the articles, the federal government couldn't do things like have an army or navy, right? If they could declare war, but they would have to ask states for soldiers to fight in that war. They weren't allowed to tax the people. Only states could tax. If they needed money to pay for things like pay back Spain and France for helping us in the war, they had to ask states for the money. And they weren't allowed to have a court system. Remember, the states could have their own state Supreme Courts, but there was no federal court system. And we only had one branch of government, Congress, made up of one representative from each state. So there were 13 representatives, and unless the 9 out of 13 of them agree on whether a law will be a national law or not, then it's not happening. So things were not looking good. So under the articles, because we gave such limited powers to our federal government or central government, we were operating more like 13 individual countries rather than one united country. And these weaknesses in the articles became very, very noticeable after Shays' Rebellion. You may remember that. That was the farmers in Massachusetts rebelled against the state of Massachusetts government about the taxes and foreclosing on farms. So after that, people realized that it was definitely time. It's too weak. It's not working out. Um, we're ineffective, and we're not going to last unless we make our government give them a little bit more power, make our central government a little bit stronger. So that's when the delegates from each of the 13 states head for Pennsylvania in 1787 for the Constitutional Convention, where they created the U.S. Constitution. It took 4 months. They came out of it with a new framework of government, the U.S. Constitution, creating a stronger central government.